Well, I am terribly excited. We're dealing with the issue of a chosen generation. What it simply mean to be born again. What it mean to be a part of this last Adam, the second man, the Lord from heaven, the Christ, this chosen generation. Well, Peter said it in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. He says, but you are a chosen generation, royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who have called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. Now, the last time we were dealing with what it means to be a part of the chosen generation. What is the chosen generation? What is this other generation that is apart from the first generation, part of the first Adam, part of the man that was called earthy, that in him all die? What about this chosen generation, a part of this last Adam, this second man, this Lord from heaven, this Christ, that all are made alive in? What about this chosen generation, this royal priesthood, this holy nation? Well, Isaiah, 700 years before the birth of Christ on the planet, the prophet Isaiah said here in chapter 53, verse number 8, he was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. Wow. Well, every believer knows who that is. That's the Christ who was wounded for transgressions and bruised for iniquity. He was chastised for our peace, and with the stripes that he bore, we're healed. Now, the world who heard about this didn't believe that he was wounded for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquity. They concluded that he was despised, rejected of men. A man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. And they hid their faces from him. And get this, they esteemed him to be stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Poor man. But the fact is, all that Christ went through was not for him. It was for us. So he was cut off. Wow. Taken from prison to judgment. Who will declare his generation? Peter answers the question. We are the chosen generation to declare the generation of Christ, who was crucified, cut off, but after being in the grave for 3 days, he was raised from the dead. Now, those of us who are now in him, that last Adam, we were put to death in his death. We were buried with him when he was buried. Now we are raised with him in resurrection. Now we are a part of him, as the scripture says, seated with him in the heavenly places. We are the chosen generation, the royal priesthood, not just an earthly, but a royal priesthood. We are entered into the same priesthood Christ in a way, because we make intercessions on behalf of the lost, just like he makes intercession for those who come to him. We are that generation, that royal priesthood, that holy nation. That word nation in 1 Peter 2:9 is a word that means ethnic group, race, or tribe. Yeah, which means now that we are a part of the Christ that gives us life, we are a part of a new race. That's right. We all were born different races, if you please, even though it's the Adamic race. It was broken down into different ethnicities and cultures and etc. over a period of time. But now everyone who comes into Christ through faith in his blood and his sacrificial work on the cross, we come into a newness called a new creature or new creation. The things that were are no longer, the old have passed, and behold, if we can see, all have become new. We are a part of that generation that's chosen to show forth the praises of him who called us out of darkness into the marvelous light. Now, How does this work out in practical terms? Being a chosen generation, a holy, that is a sacred race. Oh, I can hear it now in the spirit. Someone is saying, oh, he couldn't be talking about there's a new race that's superior to other races. Yes, that's what I'm saying. But it's not racism as it was. Racism as it was simply means there are certain races who consider themselves above other races at particular times over history. And I can go with that. You know, you got the Hamites and the Shemites and the Japhanites and all those other splinter groups. As a matter of fact, let me go here to the book of Acts. Some of you have already understood all of this. But in Acts chapter 17, beginning with verse 26, it says, and have made of one blood all nations, that is ethnic groups, of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds, boundaries of their habitation, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. Wow. Now, in times past, in darkness, in the first Adam, the earthly man that in all die, there was a splintering or a scattering of humanity into different ethnicities, which simply means that God produced what is called the apartheid system. I'll give you a chance to swallow that. Yes, it's called divine apartheid, where he separated the races by boundaries. Yes, he didn't want whites to live with whites, whites to live with blacks, blacks to live with whites, Chinese to live with Japanese, etc. He separated them so that humanity would be segmented enough to never unify. Because God knew what would happen when humanity unifies. That's right. They defy God and become a God in themselves. So God scattered humanity, split it up, put boundaries, and get this, it says, and determined the times before appointed. Times before appointed. Each tribe, each ethnic group were appointed times. So at certain times, blacks was superior, and other times whites was superior, then other times the olives were superior, etc., etc. So you have this collage of confusion. This is why we must put this in series form. And so we're going to continue. So you want to stay tuned for the next part of this series on the chosen generation.